Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting of Saugatuck Township today, Wednesday, April 13th, 22 at 6 p.m. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Aldridge is excused. Bigford? Here. Helmert?
Here.
Marcy?
Here.
Osmond? Here. We have a quorum. We'll stand and say the pledge of allegiance. If you're able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. DeFranco, would you like to give us the Zoom instructions for those who might be joining us from afar?
I would love to, Supervisor Osmond. Please say your name before speaking and making a motion. Please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Do not click unknown links that may be shared in Zoom chat. The township does not disseminate information with this function. The meeting is being recorded. Please be respectful of those speaking and do not interrupt. If anyone is disrupted to the point of preventing the township board from conducting business, you will get one warning before you are removed from the meeting. If there is a problem with Zoom, the meeting will be reset utilizing the same meeting information. If the meeting is unable to continue, a notice will be issued on the township Facebook page and website. Reminder to board and commission members that emailing or texting is not allowed during a public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there support?
Support.
All those, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to public comments. I see we have a lot of people here tonight, so we're going to strictly enforce the 3-minute time limit. Brenda will be the timer, so keep your eye on her if you're not sure if you're close or not. 5 minutes for somebody speaking on behalf of the group. Before speaking, clearly state your name and address for the record. And this is not a question and answer session. It's just an opportunity to voice your thoughts with the township board. So is there anybody in the first row that would like to make a public comment? Come on up, Annie.
Oh,
No microphone. You gotta speak up.
I'm good at that.
Great.
I'm Annie Brown, and I'm the Democrat running for state representative in the 38th House District. I live in South Haven, and my husband and I owned a small business there for 20 years. I'm a former preschool teacher. I served on the South Haven Board of Education for 13 years. I worked for Senator Carl Levin in his Washington, D.C. office. And most recently, I worked for Senator Gary Peters as his West Michigan Regional Coordinator. My priorities are expanding affordable housing. I believe that short-term rentals are a local issue. And the municipalities in our district up and down the shoreline know your communities and what your rental needs are better than Lansing. So I support local control when it comes to short-term rentals. I believe in helping municipalities with coastal resiliency and keeping our shoreline intact and providing the help and the funding you need to stop erosion. I also believe in expanding mental health care. So I'm going to be the kind of state rep that gives small towns a voice in Lansing, a seat at the table, and I'll be a state rep who shows up. Thank you for your service on the board, and thank you for everything tonight.
Thank you, Annie. Is there anybody else in the first row that would like to make a public comment? Frank?
Thank you. And also thank you for your service. Frank Alfieri, 2394 Lakeshore Drive, Fenville. I've operated my chiropractic practice here in Saugatuck Township, and you can see it out that window for 40 years now. I'd like to make a few comments about the proposed Army Corps of Engineers letter. The vast majority of my patients live in the tri-community area. I'm a founding board member of the Saugatuck Dunes Coastal Alliance. I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight. At a recent board meeting, we had discussed different issues in regards to the mouth of the river. And one of the topics that came up was the Saugatuck Community Vision Statement. I think that was in February of 2021. In that statement, there was three things that were stated over repeatedly. One, build a fabulous collaboration with the tri-communities, protect dune lands. And number three, while the township has a master plan, adherence to the plan could be improved. Tonight, you have an opportunity to, as the report said, make the vision a reality by submitting the proposed letter to the United States Army Corps of Engineers to help their ongoing public interest review. I encourage you to also have, I encourage you to support that letter, approve that letter, and also encourage the other communities to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Is there anybody else in the first row that would like to make a public comment?
May I go last?
Yeah.
Thanks. Then move.
Anybody in the second row would like to make a public comment?
Hi, y'all. I'm Jane Dickey, and I'm at 6108 Old Elgin Road. And you have a little tiny letter for me in there, and it's fix the damn roads. There's a terrible potholes in front of my house and the ambulance as well. That's not why I'm here, actually, though. I'm here because I want to make a statement about the letter that I'm going to encourage you to write to the Army Corps of Engineers. They are particularly interested in public interest factors, and I think that's where you can come in and make some statements, regardless of the actions that the township boards have taken in the past. There is a statement to be made about public interest factors, and I think that this township can certainly make those. I've lived in the township for 42 years. I now serve on the Park and Recreation Commission, and I also serve on the advisory committee for rural character. And all of this is coalescing together with you and your leadership on the board to look at our whole area and realize how important our conservation is. We need to protect our beautiful places and the tourist-based economy, which is based on the beauty around us. We've made a considerable investment. Some of you in this room, and I certainly did, help contribute some money to the Saugatuck Natural Area, the Patty Brook Holtz area, so that it would be preserved and saved. The river must be inviting and navigable for the many small crafts, and that's a public interest. I'm concerned about what will happen if a huge marina is built into those dunes. I'm concerned for many reasons about it, including the density that I think the builders are hoping to build around that marina. That's not where density needs to be built. I do believe in affordable housing strongly. I know you have an advisory committee on that. That's not the place for intensity. And if this marina is actually intended to increase density, you and I both know that's wrong, and I know you'll stand up to that. But I'd like to encourage you to go ahead and write the letter in our public interest. And again, I'll join everybody else and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jane. Is there anybody else in the second row that would like to make a public comment? Anybody in the third row that would like to make a public comment? Heidi?
Hi, I'll try to make it short. Sounds like you have a long night. Just some things that are happening in the county. I don't know if you're aware of it, but Fenville had an ORV ordinance. And then Ganges, Clyde, Casco, Lee all asked for access to it. And then that was passed by the road commission last week. And then they're going to try to do it once a year. They're going to go and say, hey, did that work for you? Do you want something closed? Do you want something open? So that will work for everybody. And I think I was interested, like you are, how safe is it? Is there more accidents? So I did call the sheriff up, Frank, what's going on? Is there more accidents? Do you see it being a menace? That you're getting calls from people, and he said, no, we haven't. So just for information with that. Also, in talking to Craig Atwood, he said they did put in for a $5 million grant for that road. on Lakeshore Drive, you know, behind the houses. He says he thinks he has a good chance of getting that, so we'll see what happens on that. Also, just for your information for the officers here, we did approve body camera solutions, and that should be deployed by June. That's a safety for the citizens, a safety for the officer. It's a great thing to have. As soon as they go out on a call, they punch it, it records it. A sergeant can even punch into it to hear the conversations of how they're reacting to people, their conversations, and that will be have access to court too for it. Also know that we have an RFP out for outdoor warning system. Before, only dispatch could really check that to go on the sirens. Now they're trying to get it that Chief Janet could punch it because he knows that tornado's coming in from Lake Michigan. He just had it, he has to get it out fast. So that RFP is out for a new system within that'll be more, proficient in what that is. And then just lastly, this broadband and the water issue, I'm on the water, the broadband, they're running at it. They're doing a great job with it. So I think you'd be proud of all the work that's being done with it to create collaboration with all the different groups that offer it, find out really who's all involved within it. And hopefully to give you some updated reports on that. But have a good meeting tonight.
Thank you, Dean.
You're welcome to stay.
Anybody in the next row?
Nice to see you.
Go ahead. Good evening, Russ Gardner, 245 Spear Street. I know several of you. For those that don't know me, I'm a fourth generation resident of Saugatuck. My family has been here and has lived and worked here for a number of years. I've had the pleasure of serving on city council in Saugatuck and also the planning commission. I'm not here representing those two particular entities. I'm here representing myself as a resident. I've had many conversations over the years with the Dennisons when they owned the property, when the sons were considering what to do with the property out there. And ultimately, the Dunes Harbor actually ended up coming into the public trust. The north side of the river, which did not, which is what we're here tonight to talk about, is incredibly important to that area. And between the Burkhalt's nature area and the harbor area, I think it's important for this township to consider sending a letter to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers from a public interest standpoint. That's important to maintain that as close as possible to a natural area. I've been out there my entire life, and it sometimes is a little disappointing to see some of the activity that goes on out there. I think that you are in a unique position to be able to continue to try to support a long-time effort in this community from residents, elected officials, and other commissioners to see that stay as pristine as it possibly can. I'm not against development, but I'm against inappropriate development and things which I think will harm our tourist-based economy. We are part of a tri-community master plan, which speaks to some of this natural development. I think that what they're proposing, in my opinion, is not going to be the best for the tri-communities. And I would encourage you to submit that letter to the U.S. Corps of Engineers. And I'm in support of anything to do to try to mitigate the damage that may cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Anybody else from that row? Come on up.
Hi, Scott Waringa, 6618 Dugout Road, which is tucked nicely. I mean, I think I'm one of the furthest north private residences, close to this area. I'm just asking you to seriously consider supporting the letter to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And one of the things that my wife and I loved about this area was we love downtown, but where we are, we're tucked in a beautiful natural area. And we loved it so much that we actually also bought the McEnroe property. So we're also the owners of 3468 Holland. And we just would love to see the area stay as natural as possible. And again, I'm all about private property rights, but I think it needs to be done within the confines of the rules as they're written. So just would encourage you to consider sending that letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anybody else from that row? I can't see everybody. Next row.
Another
Scott.
Scott. Scott Dean, 544 St. Joseph Street in Saugatuck, and I am here to comment on item 8 under new business. First, I have to say my comments are those of a member of the public and not on behalf of my employer, the state of Michigan. or the city of Saugatuck, where I serve as an elected official. To be clear, my comments are strictly those of a full-time resident in the tri-community area whose family uses the public lands and waters around North Shore development on a nearly daily basis. The proposed letter before the board simply asks the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to make an independent review of the need for the excavation of the Bow Basin by North Shore of Saugatuck from the perspective of the overall public interest. The proposed letter is neutral in tone. It's not prescriptive, nor does it make any conclusions. It simply presents information regarding 4 key public interest factors: economic, conservation, recreation, and land use, as described in the Tri-Community Master Plan and the Saugatuck Township Code of Ordinances. Now, to quote the Corps' own permitting process documents, public involvement plays a central role in the Corps' administration of its regulatory program. The process further states, the Corps' public interest review is the main framework for the overall evaluation of projects. The public interest review requires the careful weighing of all public interest factors relevant to each particular permit application. So in closing, good decisions are made when information is not only readily available from multiple sources, but also reflective of the present day. Considering the long, complicated history of this proposed project and the rapidly changing landscape of the tri-community area, I respectfully ask the board to take advantage of this opportunity to engage in this process and submit the proposed letter to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as they conduct their public interest review. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anybody else in the back row? Hi, Bobby, come on up.
This is my first time on touches, so.
Staying clear.
I know, I'll make it, hold your breath.
Bobby?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bobby Gaunt, 341 Main Street in Saugatuck. In the spirit of full disclosure, I am a member of the City of Saugatuck Planning Commission, and I'm also a member of the board of the Dunes Coastal Alliance. But I'm just here on behalf of me this evening. I'm here really both as an interested citizen of our tri-community and as an advocate of planning, and then acting consistently with plans that are put in place. In my 75 years of living here, well, not only here, but all around the world, I really can't remember a time when it's been more important for those of us in the public arena to model good governance. And I want to thank each and every one of you for doing exactly that. You've set an example for all of us in so many ways, so thank you. The Tri-Community Master Plan is another example of good governance, I think. It's about designing a blueprint for what we want our community to look like, how we want it to grow in the next 15 to 20 years, and then consistently enacting plans and ordinances to protect that vision and ensure that our communities flourish. What is reassuring to me is that 3 public interest factor letters that you've submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers addressing the practicability of reasonable alternatives are consistent with our tri-community plan's vision. I believe, and I hope you will find the same consistency of vision in providing to the Corps a public factors interest letter regarding the public need for excavation. Your actions continue to set an example for all of your tri-community partners, and we're grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Anybody else in the back that would like to come up and make a public comment? Hi.
Hi, I'm Liz Engel, and I brought my own little template with typos and everything. Just so you'd have something to follow along with. I'm Liz Engel, and I've lived in the Saugatuck Douglas area my entire life. I've resided at 3041 Indian Point Road in Saugatuck since 2004. I've sold real estate in this community for 32 years. For literally decades, I've talked with people about why they want to move to our area and or should start a business in our area. The answer always includes mentions of the parks, beaches, dunes, waterfront, and natural areas. We here enjoy a unique environment and they want to do the same. I think we all have a responsibility to protect the river mouth area for generations that come after us. As the Tri-Community Master Plan says, although waterfront lands have generating potential, a major attraction of both the Lake Michigan and Kalamazoo River waterfronts in their scenic natural shoreline composed of forested sanded dunes and large wetlands areas. Should these natural areas be greatly damaged or destroyed through the inappropriate development, then the goose that laid the golden egg will be dead. Please submit the proposed letter to the USACE in their ongoing public interest factors review. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you, Liz. Anybody else in the back? Come on up, Scott.
I'm the last guy.
You're the last guy. You got first call on it. That's fair, that works. That's fair. This minute here. So do I get 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Brenda's keeping the time, so keep your eye on her.
Who does the time?
I do.
Brenda.
All right. I'm Scott Boscraft on behalf of North Shores. Constituent Alliance this evening has asked you to submit a letter and author a letter that we believe needs a little clarification and a little context. The key points of that letter, I think there's 5 of them. One is decreases the critical dune area by 6.5 acres. I think there should be a little context of that. In Michigan, there's 225,000 acres of dunes, of which 74,000 of them are the critical dunes. That equates to about 0.00087484% of the critical dunes is what that 6.5 acres would be. And of the critical dunes, of the regular dunes, it'd be 0.00002. And of North Shore's property, it's roughly 2% of the 315 acres that North Shore has. I looked up a typical home in this area, which was roughly 8,712 square foot lot with a 1,966 square foot house on it. And that disturbance or that area of impact is 23%. And number 2, really 3 minutes. North Shore, I think maybe I'll just hand this letter off, but I think a lot of things that in that letter, like draining the globally imperiled and intermittent wetlands, there's been a lot of work, a lot of science that's been done, and that is just a false statement. And we'd be happy to produce, hydrology reports and everything else to debunk that. Destroys aspect of the site of Singapore, we'd actually disagree with that. We've done significant archaeology work there. It's already been on your website. And if anything, I would say that we are actually preserving the Singapore, because anybody's welcome to come out there from the board if they'd like a tour, but Singapore is not visible on the site. And then it goes through damaging the Potawatomi traditional cultural property, risking lake sturgeon. I've got expert after expert, including the state and the federal government, that says that is just not a true statement. Burial sites, obviously we did the archaeology work, that doesn't exist. Water quality, again, we have expert after expert that is not a true statement. Wild rice, there is no wild rice in the area that we propose to do a marina, nor is there habitat there to grow wild rice. Now the Potawatomi or the Native Americans are restoring wild rice, but it happens to be on the other side of the river and upriver of North Shores. North Shore has done the work. And then there's the thing about deforesting the canopy of the river. And I think you have a picture in here that actually shows that area, that shows roughly 50s or 54. It was actually mined and actually deforested. And I think it's that picture right there. North Shore would propose that there's an argument that we're actually restoring it by filling it back in with sand and then putting vegetation back on top of it later.
I need to know you, Scott, but you can You can continue at the next set of public comments, but your time is up.
My time is done.
Yeah.
I think what I'll do is I kind of made a really quick outline and I'll just have it put on the record.
Thank you.
And if you get time, I didn't make copies. Maybe you could just scan it and email it to everybody. Thank you for your
Thank
time
you.
this evening.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
John?
Hi, John Vanderbeek, 6419 Palmetto Court. Been a resident here for over a decade. I'm raising my kids here. We love it here. You guys have all known me. I know you guys personally. We all work together trying to add more conservation and preserve more areas and kind of push our municipality towards being more environmentally friendly and conservation minded. And I feel really good about the board and the planning commission and the parks commission right now. And I just wanted to express my support. There's a lot of talk about the harbor. There was a lot of talk a couple of years ago about the Presbyterian camp. That's kind of what activated me in the group that I founded, which is called the Tri-Community Trail Master Plan. And my push is really just looking at land use and the future of land use. And if we're upset about past developments and developments going on right now, let's make sure that we're doing something that addresses the whole river going all the way up, not just out there, but everywhere, so that the next time something like this happens, we're in control of it a little bit more. And I feel really good about who's in charge here. And I just voice my support for whatever everybody said before me, whatever you guys decide. I have my full confidence in you guys. I'm here mostly talking about the resolution to support the beach to bridge trail vision and supporting that future vision moving forward. You've seen this map, and it shows in numbers how you could go from the state park all the way to the New Richmond Bridge, which connects you to 50,000 acres of the Allegan County game area. Kind of the person that holds the keys to number 1 to 2, which takes you to State Park down to the bike trail, is North Shore and Scott Boscraft. I hope to see preservation along there, and I hope to see a trail that connects to State Park. And I hope that you guys can support our resolution to support the beach to bridge vision and keep working with us so we make sure we don't upset the community like we have, I guess, with the past 2 years. So thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Last call for anybody else who would like to make a public comment.
I'm David Engel.
Hello.
I have been born and raised here. I'm a 3rd generation Lake Michigan fisherman. My sons fish, who are 4th generation Lake Michigan fishing. And we have spent a lifetime traveling the river. We encourage you to please, address the letter to the Corps of Engineers. We talk about it every day as we pass that area. We'd like to see it be pristine and stay as it is for obvious reasons. I think you're setting a precedent here that if you open this up and let them do it, where else? I'm also the caretaker of 1,400 acres on the Kalamazoo River called the Potawatomi Gun Club. We run into these issues many times over the years in different townships and up and down with developments. And it's mostly, been poo-pooed to create water frontage for profit. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. We'd like to dredge out places and do things all the time. So, I'm not sure the public use is there for this project. If there was some good logical, other than the guys getting to keep their big boats there, they can keep them upstream at the marinas with the rest of it. So just digging that out because it would be convenient to have it around your house and stuff doesn't seem very logical to me. And I would think you guys would think about it the same way. Okay, I did do a little letter here that I'm going to leave with you for, put on record. But so please think about what you're doing here and get on board with this, okay? Please vote, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the hard work. You get yelled at all the time and never get told what a great job you do. I think you're doing a great job, okay? You bet. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to come and make a public comment? Last chance. Jennifer, who do we have with their hands raised?
All right, we'll go with Nick first. Nick, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Wallace, and my family has owned a cottage at 3524 North Dugout Road since the early 1950s. I've grown up exploring the forest, dunes, wetlands, and river all around the Kalamazoo River mouth neighborhood, as well as Talmadge Woods, Oxbow, the State Park, and the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. Getting to intimately know this land has led to a total lifelong passion for ecology of conservation, and I'm absolutely grateful for it. I was pleased when I read through tonight's agenda and saw mention of the Lower Kalamazoo River Greenway Plan. Please allow me to refresh the board on what the plan states on page 49. Quote, some of the highest quality habitat and rarest species can be found within a couple mile of stretch of the mouth of the Kalamazoo River. There are several parks and preserves, including the Saugatuck Dunes State Park, Talmadge Woods, Patty Burkholtz Natural Area, where visitors can experience these areas. Protecting and preserving these areas around Saugatuck should be one of the highest conservation priorities along the Greenway, end quote. This is by no means an exaggeration. The Kalamazoo Rivermouth neighborhood is truly unlike any other place and unique in the face of an increasingly pressured state that's known for its natural beauty. On behalf of the land and of my family, we are asking that you do the right thing and please submit the proposed letter to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in their ongoing public interest factors review. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. Have a good night.
Thank you, Nick. There's somebody else on the screen? Jennifer?
Yes, we have Betsy.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Merritt, and I'm Deputy General Counsel at the National Trust for Historic Preservation, calling in from Washington, D.C. Our address is 2600 Virginia Avenue Northwest. The National Trust has been involved for many years in advocacy to protect the historic and cultural significance of the Saugatuck Dunes. For example, the National Trust first included the Saugatuck Dunes on our annual list of America's 11 most endangered historic places back in 2010, a dozen years ago. And like the township, we are a consulting party in the ongoing multi-year Section 106 consultation process being conducted by the Army Corps of Engineers. So from a national perspective, we would like to strongly echo the comments from your local constituents and encourage the township to submit the proposed letter to the Army Corps regarding the public interest factors, just as you have submitted previous letters. Thank you so much for making it possible for us to call in remotely to convey our support for this proposal.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Anybody else online with their hand raised, Jennifer?
There's not, but I just wanted to ask, there's a caller that called in via phone, not via web. You're muted at this point. Okay, did you want to make a comment? I think you may be muted still.
Okay, I guess not.
I think you have to hit like #6 to unmute when you're on the phone. Try that.
But was it Scott? Because, or Nick, rather, Nick spoke.
Next phone. No one else has their hand raised.
Okay. Last call from anybody else who wants to make a public comment. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section of the meeting. We do now have our consent agenda. Is there any questions or concerns with the consent agenda? We've all had an opportunity to look at it. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Any support?
I'll support.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Yep. Thank you, Ms. Drew, for such succinct and accurate minutes, and I really appreciate your format. It keeps evolving to be even more professional and readable, and yes, thank you. Very welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Reports. Everybody had a chance to look at their reports that are in your packet. Have any questions or comments about written reports?
I did speak with Tony Shippa today, our representative on the Emergency Services Committee, and I can give a quick verbal, very quick one whenever you're ready.
Thank you. We're ready.
He reviewed the quarterly report from Life Ambulance. The response times are good, could be better, but that's just due to staff shortages, nationwide staff shortages. Again, more medics and EMTs will be ready and trained in June due to some expedited training. And he will also be meeting with Treasurer Helmrich, myself, and DeFranco to just familiarize DeFranco with all things emergency services and just talk about the future of quality ambulance service. So we'll be meeting potentially next week.
Perfect. Let's ship up. Any other comments about the reports or reports from the committees? Okay.
I'll just say real quick regarding roads, we don't have a report this month because we're working on, we have no new information.
Okay, so we have motions for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we move on then to our present. Oh, we have a correspondence from Jane Dickey. Everybody got a chance to read that?
Yeah.
Okay. And we have some guest speakers or presentations tonight. We'll start with Lisa from Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. I'm going to go through this rather quickly because I'm in the essence of your time and it's already been long.
Is that this one?
I just wanted to give you an update on what we've been doing and what we have in store for 2022. The first couple slides are basically the scope of the work and what's included, what we do from marketing strategy to digital advertising to videography and photography. This next one goes into who our team members are locally at the CBB office, and then also with our marketing firm, Concept Day Creative out of Spring Lake. And we've got a team of creative as well as public relations and social media, and we now have a digital strategist on board, so that's brand new. I'm gonna kind of keep going until she gets where she needs to be. I wish you had this in front of you. The next screen that you would see, it talks about the website traffic and how it's increased over the years. If you were not aware, we redesigned the website 2 years ago, about a year and a half. It went live 2020, July of 2020. And since then, the traffic for the website has increased 22%. So we're happy with that. The shoulder season users, which is what we're trying to increase right now, is also up by 44%. We're trying to look at shoulder seasons, meaning spring and fall. We know that summertime in this area is super busy, but we would like to extend our summer busy season into the fall, and then we'll start focusing on spring as well. Yay. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, how many pages forward?
Let's go 4 or 5 in. Right, about one more. Geographic website reach. This just talks about the target audiences as far as geographically who we're looking at. So the main demographic areas are the main geographic areas rather are Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cleveland. We're pulling from St. Louis, we're pulling from Kentucky and Tennessee, but this is who we're looking at. And you'll see by the region, the number of visits we've got from each. Something new we launched when we did the new website a year and a half ago, was a book direct feature on the website. So they were never able to actually book their stay from Saugatuck.com before, and now they're able to do that. And it's been very well received. In addition, our monthly website has articles that populate it. So a lot of people might call those blogs. We call them articles. We send them out on a monthly basis in a newsletter that goes to about 18,000 subscribers. And then those also populate the website. And there's 2 of those a month. And they talk about everything there is to do and see in the area. Something else that we started just last summer is called Experiences. So if someone is planning their trip to Saugatuck and Douglas and Fenville, and they want to know what there is to do and what can they do, much like an, I'll say it, Airbnb experience, they can say, oh, well, I want to book my tickets to go on the Star of Saugatuck, or I want to go rent a retro boat. They're able to do that now from Experiences. Digital advertising is a couple, there you go. Digital advertising, we do Google and Facebook, Instagram, ad buys. If you look closely at this, you'll see the different audiences that we're targeting. So from families to LGBTQ, to couples, girls' weekends. Next slide talks about all the accolades that we've received, and we're pretty proud of these. It seems like over the last year, they've been just rolling in. And I'm not gonna say I'm sorry about that. It's a wonderful thing. From Condé Nast to the New York Times, we've been getting wonderful accolades. We've been updating our videography and our photography over this past year. We did a big videography and photo shoot this past summer, fall. We just did winter in February, and we'll be doing a spring photo shoot in June. As you would guess, these photo shoots and videography shoots populate the website. They also help with our digital advertising. They help with all the social posts. And now we've delved into the world of TikTok, believe it or not. And so the short ones are going to help with that as well. So what have we got going for 2022? If you've been coming north on 196, you'll see the new billboard, Escape to the Art Coast of Michigan, featuring the Oval Beach. And then the Discovery Guide, which I brought each of you a copy of tonight, just was printed and it got delivered to our office a couple weeks ago. This is the difference between this and the Pocket Guide, which you probably have seen, and it's in the kiosk. The Pocket Guide is meant for the visitor who's already here. The Discovery Guide is meant to attract someone who's never been here before. We want to entice them to visit. So this was produced showing pretty pictures and wonderful stories about our area. It was distributed through the Wall Street Journal to Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, just within the past 2 weeks. We have 30,000 of those that went out. We'll probably distribute another 30,000 this fall.
Fall?
Pardon?
You said
Yes, we did it already just 2 weeks ago. 30,000 went out. Another 30,000 will go out in the fall.
and can we get some of those too? The big one?
Same thing. It's, you have a copy. You'll have a copy.
All right, but
It's
we
the
like to
same
have
one.
them to hand out.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
No, we have the small one.
You
I'm
want
just-
to, I
Yes.
can get you those.
Yeah, thank you, that's what I meant.
We're also producing a series of guides. So the Pocket Travel Guide we talked about, the hiking trails map was hugely popular. We did that in conjunction with the Radar Hill Hiking Club last year in honor of the National Hiking Trails Day. But this summer, this May, hopefully, we're going to be printing the drink guide and map, and also the arts guide and map. So all the craft beverage places in our area, from wineries, cideries, and breweries, will be in the drink guide. And then the arts guide, obviously, our galleries, studios, and what am I missing? Galleries and studios. Oh, sculptures. We included sculptures. Social media, you can see, I'm not going to delve into this. There's a lot going on with social media. But like I said earlier, we did start TikTok. We also have a Pinterest page, and we do also Twitter. I'll encourage everybody always to use hashtag Art Coast of Michigan and hashtag Saugatuck. When you do that, it allows our social media professional in Chicago to pick that up and repost what you've already posted. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is something new that we've never done before. It's going to come out this August, mid-August, and it's an insert into Midwest Living magazine. It's going to be going to 7 states in the Midwest. It'll be inserted into their magazines as an insert, rather. 495 subscribers are going to receive this. And we're going to be touting and talking about all things to do in the fall. So it's a September, October issue, but it does go out in mid-August. So everything from hiking and wineries and color tours, gallery strolls, everything, you name it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Can I say thank you to you,
Absolutely.
your amazing team? You've done an
It's my team. I'll give all the credit to them.
terrific job since you came on board. And I want to encourage all my colleagues up here and everyone in the room, if you don't get all their email alerts, you should. I love the weekend highlights
Yes.
and the articles.
Thank you.
It's fabulous. So
Thank
Can you say?
just because we live here,
where do
we
you
should
find-
still know what's going on.
I agree. I agree.
Where do we find that?
Saugatuck.com.
Thank you, Lisa. We have another presentation, and that would be the Tri Communities Recycling and Household Hazardous Waste.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so
Dara.
much. It's good to see you all again. I think this is my once every 3-month visit. So you shouldn't be surprised. I think Daniel's probably kept pretty well abreast of what's going on. And as you're all well aware, the second annual, I think we can start calling it that, Household Hazardous Waste Day event is planned for May the 24th. So I provided to Daniel, and you have it in your packet, kind of a summary of where we were last year and what happened. You all are very aware how successful that event was, and many of you helped with that or dropped off items. A quick summary, we had 270 vehicles come through on the 1st of May and collected about 27,000 pounds of material. More than half of that was electronics, which Daniel could tell you was a bit of a surprise, and we weren't expecting it, and we learned quite a bit from that. So this year, Drug and Lab Disposal, who is the entity that we contracted with, not available primarily because of staffing issues that everybody is experiencing. So we're going with ERG Environmental, and I think they have an office out of Livonia, and they have a Grand Rapids location. A nice gentleman by the name of Ed is going to be working with us. So we'll actually expand it an hour. We'll run it during the week. It's a little more affordable during the week, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Same location at DPW here on Blue Star. Same kind of format, coming in on Maple Street, coming through, coming back out on Blue Star. And again, asking people not to get out of their vehicles, just even with COVID, knock on wood, just about done. It's just easier for the volunteers and for the staff if we and they handle all those materials. So last year when I came to you, it was kind of quick and it was a last minute request. And so this time I've given myself a little bit of time and are coming back to the municipalities for an ask again. Last year when I came to you, there was a little bit of concern that perhaps you all might not get the best bang for the buck. And I think you could probably, now that you did get the best bang for the buck, almost 50%, almost for those, almost 50% of the folks who dropped off household hazardous waste items were from the township. But as far as what was given to help the effort, the smallest amount came from the township. So not to say the least, just, small. So this year I'm coming back and I'm saying it gently. This year I'm coming back and asking for even amount of support from each municipality, basically an ask up to $5,000. And I'm saying up to $5,000 because I feel really positive about the support that we've gotten. As you know, the Rotary Club already got a $10,000 grant from Rotary International. And as a Rotarian, it's our responsibility to raise the match on that. The fire department's already given $1,000, and we have requests into the same entities as last year: Douglas UCC, St. Pete's, just about all the churches, and many of them, of course, are very positive. So it could be that we might not need all that. But based on what happened last year with all the electronics it was much more than we expected. I'd rather have a cushion than not enough. So that's why I'm asking up to $5,000. I want to thank you all for already getting the blitz out through the e-blast. Douglas and the city of Saugatuck have followed suit. Right now I've set up for 288 cars to come through this year. I'd like to take more. but I've already got upwards of 80 people signed up since just opening that on Monday. So yeah, the interest is there and the comments are great. Thank you for doing this again. This is a great service. Keep it up. It's just really good comments. And I think when it's all done, I'll take all those comments and share them because you need to hear them because folks really appreciate what we all collectively as 3 municipalities are doing, right? It's a really good thing. So that is my simple and humble request is that you support our endeavor up to $5,000, and that'll give me a chance to give us a cushion, but also real quickly, we had 45 volunteers last year. I fed them. If you feed them, they will come. So I fed them, and I'd like to do that again, a little bit of swag for them and keep it pretty reasonable. So that is it, humbly. Any questions? Anything I can offer for you?
I know that that information was provided, but were all the spots filled last year?
Every one of them was
Yes.
filled last year. Yeah, and it was good. I mean, for those of you who were there, it's too bad Stacy's not here. She
Yeah.
was like the greeter extraordinaire.
Yeah.
And she, I don't know where she saw me a couple weeks ago. Goes, can I sign up to do that again? Yeah.
She'll do it.
She'll do it. Yeah.
So is there any, I'm just curious, because I got the alert this week to
Yeah.
sign up, and I thought, well, I did it last year. That was an accumulation over many years. I'm just wondering if there's a concern that will it ever taper off, or is it because of an influx of new people? I mean, I know there's always a need. I'm just curious about projecting the numbers of
Yeah.
participants.
Well, I look forward to that day.
Okay.
I think the easiest way for all 3 municipalities to get to that is
Yeah.
for our single waste hauler contracts to include that household hazardous waste day provision.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
We're
Thank
still
you for
waiting for a
reminding me.
recommendation from the tri-community recycling.
Yeah. Lake Town is a good example. In their contract, they actually included in their contract that it was $1 per household charge for household hazardous waste. And they were able to collect enough money to do household hazardous waste day events twice a year. And that would be lovely, where I wouldn't have to come anymore, or the committee wouldn't have to come anymore and ask, that it would just be an expected event every year. I look forward to that day.
Me too.
Thank you, Doctor.
You bet. Thank you.
And we have one more presentation by David Swan.
I should be able to keep this to 4 minutes if I speak quickly. Good evening. I'm David Swan. I live at 345 Griffith in Saugatuck. I am privileged and honored to speak on behalf of nearly 70 township residents this evening. Thank you for setting aside time on your very busy and full agenda to consider their request that the township again submit a public interest factors letter to Army Corps of Engineers. Good governance. Standing before you this evening, I'm reminded of this board's work, your work, in recalling the previous administration. With courage, resilience, and perseverance, you all stepped up. You did the hard work, made the changes our communities asked you to make, necessary, needed changes. And as a board, you all saw this as your civic duty, and we're grateful. The phrase good governance reminds me and those of us who worked on this letter of our tri-community master plan, our guiding document, and our community's economic vision. A significant number of citizens in our 3 communities contributed to its creation by attending 2 town hall style meetings and filling out a survey that was sent to absolutely every home, be it in an apartment or a home, a house, a standalone house, or an apartment in the entire tri-communities with a 43% return rate, which is absolutely unheard of for a survey that required an hour to complete. And by participating in countless interviews and other meetings, the master plan was unanimously approved by the township and the 2 cities and the Allegan County commissioners.
Good governance. That is exactly what the Tri-Community Master Plan is. Engaged, respectful citizenry, setting aside personal wants for the greater need of the community, establishing public interest. Township residents have asked this board 3 times in the past 2 years to submit public interest factor letters to Army Corps of Engineers, commenting on criteria 2. And I quote, the practicability, it's a tough one, practicability of using reasonable alternative locations and methods to accomplish the objective of the proposed project, end quote, which you have unanimously supported 3 times. In these letters, you asked Army Corps to consider an alternative that would protect the site of Singapore, protect the wetlands of the Patty Burkholz Natural Area, protect Michigan's critical dune map, protect the forested dunes above Dugout Road, protect the water quality, and protect the lake sturgeon. Here we are again. So let me explain a little bit about this request. We're asking tonight that the board submit a 4th letter, which addresses the 3rd and 4th criteria in the public interest factors, specific to excavation. And I quote, the public need for the excavation, end quote. Not the development, specific to the excavation of a boat basin. So respecting your time, we are providing a draft letter for you to consider in your decision-making. This letter is comprised of excerpts from the master plan, about 36 excerpts that are specific to the river mouth, and the code of ordinances. The letter does not draw conclusions. We believe it is neutral. And as it simply provides excerpts from the community's guiding economic document, Tri-Community Master Plan. The excerpts in the draft letter directly address economics, recreation, and conservation from the perspective of public interest. That's it. The letter asks Army Corps to consider and weigh the clear and plain language in our master plan, the future land use map, and the township code of ordinances. As John Helmrich said in February of 2020, when you were discussing the first letter the township sent to Army Corps, quote, we need to do our civic duty, end quote. And doing our civic duty is why nearly 70 township residents and citizens, homeowners, business owners took the time and effort to help draft the documents before you this evening, and why some of them are here tonight and have spoken tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions. It was a little over 4 minutes. Apologies.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Swan?
I do.
Don?
I'm sure everyone does. I'm curious, I know there have been discussions about possibilities. What is the status of either of our neighboring cities, Saugatuck and Douglas, submitting a similar letter to the Army Corps to show the tri-community collaboration and the fit with the tri-community master plan?
So we presented to Douglas in at the end of January, beginning of February. And the mayor tabled so that the board could have more of an opportunity to review. So that they would have everybody there as a voting body. I've had a few discussions with Mayor Donovan, and it sounds like they will be moving forward with bringing it to a vote. I hope. I know one of his main concerns was dewater. We've met with the city of Saugatuck, and my understanding is that the city has shared a proposed letter, a letter that we have written for them with Daniel, and he was going to review. I think they're looking for direction from the township board before they consider it fully. They don't want to step on toes. Not to speak for the city, but that is my understanding.
And do you think, or is there a thought that a joint letter would be stronger to show, as again, I mentioned, there's been a lot of work put into this and what's been submitted to us. And And I particularly like the integration of master plan language, which was unanimously supported twice by all three communities. And also, it's well known that since June of last year, we've started a very exhaustive review of all of our ordinances. So that linkage is strong. So I'm just wondering about the strength of a collaborative.
That would be terrific. There are many things that would be terrific. I think it would be very difficult to pull off. I think it would be, since it's in your jurisdiction, if you agree to put forth a letter to Army Corps and then perhaps offered it up to the two cities to sign if they care to. But I think it's important to send it to Army Corps before a decision is made, and we no longer are allowed public interest comments.
And I'm wondering, could you just comment a little bit more? Because this struck me as sort of a new concept, but an interesting one, where you make this delineation about the before excavation and the after excavation. And one thing that struck me, I'm just wondering your thoughts on reading this and then looking back to the 2017 Saugatuck Township Planning Commission approval of a PUD for condominiums around a potential excavation in Marina. Was that sort of cart before the horse, or how do you?
Absolutely, I think it's cart before the horse. You can't have condominiums or documiniums ringing uplands. You have to have an excavation for boat basin first. And that's what the applicant should have done. And I think the township attorney was very, very clear in his April 14th, 2017 letter to the Planning Commission that states you are not considering excavation for a boat basin. That will fall to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Department of Environmental Quality, now Eagle. It's very specific, and that's why we keep specifying. The board can address excavation. We aren't here talking about the development. That is a completely separate matter. It's excavation. And that's what the Tri-Community Master Plan, and that's what the Code of Ordinances specifically talks about, is changing the contours, changing the landscape at the river mouth area. So that's why we really try and separate those two, before and after.
Well, I think offering us that delineation is helpful.
Good.
Thank you for that. The question that I've heard some people wonder about is if the Army Corps were to deny the excavation, so whether it was the current owner or potentially a future owner, if they chose to sell the property, do we have any idea how many homes might get built in lieu of a marina and condo development?
So 2 points to make. I don't think it's for anyone to really consider what would happen if when the excavation is denied. I think that's just our civic duty to talk to Army Corps about the public interest. We've been very specific as a community saying we should not allow that to happen. What happens next is speculative, and we can all address that. But I know that the previous owner, Aubrey Kerr McClendon, said that they would build, I think they said 200 houses if they did not get permit to excavate a boat basin. Aubrey McClendon owned that property for 9 years. He was one of America's largest landowners. He didn't sell one single lot in those 9 years. The current owner has owned that property for about 5 years, a little longer than 5 years, I believe. My calculation shows they've sold 3 lots and built 3 houses. I think all 3 houses have been spec houses. Might be wrong about that, but I think there are spec houses. So is there a market for 200 houses in the dunes? So that's step one. Step two is Would Cal Lake permit water through there? Would Chief Janik, what would Chief Janik require? I don't think you can build that many houses out in the parabolic dunes, which are moving all the time. I think that would be folly. I also am not convinced the market is there. But as I started, that's speculation. Really, we should be addressing excavation, and is that in the public interest?
Thank you.
Any more questions for Mr. Swan?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much.
We hope that you approve the letter. Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on to new business. We have FOIA procedures and guidelines resolution. FOIA is Freedom of Information Act, which requires government to produce documents that it has in their possession upon request. Mr. DeFranco, would you like to talk a little bit about that, highlights?
I would. So in 2015, there were some substantial state changes to FOIA. At that time, the board had requested that Attorney Curcio revise the FOIA guidelines and procedures for the township. He had done that. We have that on file. For some unknown reason, the board had never adopted the new FOIA guidelines. We've been using the MTA's guidelines, so we have been complying with the state. But staff believes that the guidelines and procedures that have been created by Attorney Curcio would be more appropriate. They're a little more informative and accessible for staff and the public. And so that is what is before you to be approved. So there would be no additional work required because all that work is already completed.
Any questions, Mr. Franco? In that case, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt resolution 2022-04, a resolution to adopt Freedom of Information Act FOIA procedures and guidelines.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, it is a resolution, so I will call the roll. Marcy?
Yes.
Helmer?
Yes.
Bickford?
Yes.
Osmond? Yes, motion carries. And we can move on to our next item of business, which is the consolidated fee schedule resolution. Mr. Franco?
Yes, so over the last month, we've been receiving many notifications about fee increases for services. So we've received fee increases for mechanical, plumbing, and electric inspections. We've received notification of increases in fees for standard burials and cremations. And it also came to our attention that the fire district charges $75 per reinspection for rental units, whereas we charge $60, so we're losing $15 on every reinspection. Its consolidated fee schedule has not been revised in some time. The soonest, there was a revision in 2019. It was very minor. There was something added to the fee schedule in 2017. Prior to that, I really didn't find any kind of alterations or revisions to the consolidated fee schedule. Upon talking with professional staff, it also came to my attention that there are a lot of opportunities to simplify our consolidated fee schedule, which would be great for staff, but also great for the public. So some of the recommendations we are making is that currently inspection fees vary greatly for various services, but in reality, those inspections involve kind of similar service and administrative costs. So we're recommending a uniform inspection fee across the board of $85. We also found that we have a home occupation permit, which some people utilize, and that is an annual permit. We're recommending that that become a one-time permit. So that's a little easier for the public. It's a little easier for staff to monitor. So we issue it one time and that's it. Everyone who has one would be grandfathered in. So that's just kind of a simplification for the public. And then one of the other kind of big things that we're doing is that staff is proposing a uniform formula for calculating building inspection fees. So right now, building permit fees are calculated based on the value of the project using a graduated formula to calculate the fee, a formula which varies upon the construction type. So the recommendation from staff would be that we use a uniform formula that's applied to all construction types, and that we institute a permit fee cap at $7,500. And to give you an idea, $7,500 is approximately $2.14 million of value. So kind of to go over like the really big ticket items here that we're recommending or revising or proposing revisions. One is to instate a uniform inspection fee that excludes re-inspection fees for rental dwellings to accommodate increases in service costs. We'd amend our rental dwelling inspection and re-inspection fees to accommodate service cost increase from the fire district. Simplify Schedule 2 charges such that there are flat fees for site plan, plat review, and planned unit development, each with a flat escrow deposit. We'd simplify building permit fees in the way that I just described. We'd integrate the cemetery fee schedule into the consolidated fee schedule because it's separate right now. So that's a little, more accessible for the public. We would amend fees for standard burials and cremations. There's 3 amendments that I would like to add to that list. One of them being that the revisions to the rental inspection fees become effective June 1st. The reason being that it gives the city of Douglas and the city of Saugatuck an opportunity to update their fees so that they're the same as ours. And we just think that consistency across the board is preferable. It's easy for the public to understand. It's easy for the community to answer questions about, shows a united front. So that's one amendment. The second amendment is that a permit fee be added to signage. So right now, for signs, there is a charge of $1.50 per square foot per number of sides. On the permit itself, we do charge a permit fee, but in the consolidated fee schedule, that's not listed. So essentially, it's a charge that already exists. We're just making it clear for the public. And then the third amendment to that list would be adding a temporary sign fee. So that would be $1.50 per square foot per number of sides minus the permit fee. So we're also not proposing any revisions to the water and sewer connection permits or service fees. That's something that we'll look to engineer. And I did have the attorney review everything, and he felt very comfortable in recommending that we move forward.
Yeah, I just want to add that having the rental registration fee be the same for all 3 communities and effective on June 1 makes a lot of sense because we all flip the switch at the same time. And it might encourage people who have failed to register to do it sooner rather than later. So.
Last question on the amendment relative to signs.
Of course.
Does that apply to like a temporary sign if some business or puts up a sign that's saying, 50% off sale this week?
That's a good question. I think it depends on where the sign is located. If it's located in the right of way, it would apply.
But it's further back on their property, it would not.
Then it would, this is pertaining to temporary signs in the right of way.
In the right of way.
In the right of way, yeah.
No, that's an important distinction.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions on the fee schedule?
Should I comment later or now?
Well, it's a discussion item.
No,
Okay.
I just want to I want to praise our staff. There's been so much work put into this from Eric, building inspector, from Jennifer, who's the queen of permits, from Mr. DeFranco, from Lene Wells, our zoning administrator. This has taken a lot of time and I applaud it. We've all been hoping to see revision because it hasn't been looked at in so many years. And I really want to applaud the fact that it includes adjustments to cemetery rates. Because again, no one even remembers when those rates were last set. and our costs go up, and this is a movement in a very much right direction. And I hope we don't wait 20 years to revise it again. So I just want to thank everyone.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the adoption of resolution number 2022-05, a resolution adopting the Saugatuck Township revised consolidated fee schedule
As amended.
as amended. Sorry.
Any support?
I'll support.
Thank you. We have a motion and a support. Is there any further discussion? It's a resolution, so I'll call the roll. Marcy?
Yes.
Bigford?
Yes.
Helmrich?
Yes.
Osmond? Yes. Motion carries. Move on. The lease rental agreement.
Excellent. So for many years, the township has leased part of this office, or this building rather, to the Michigan State Police. The current lease agreement expired the end of 2021, so they currently don't have a lease. The Michigan Department of Technology Management and Budget, who represent MSP, did reach out to staff and request that that lease be renewed. I did have the opportunity to talk to the lieutenant next door, and she would also like the lease to be renewed for another year. We found them to be excellent neighbors. And so before you is a proposal to renew the lease with MSP for an additional year.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I think the same question I asked last year. I don't know why they won't consider a multiple year lease. There's no, I'm staying here.
Wonder why they haven't paid their dollar.
Well, I wasn't gonna say that. And why don't they ever pay their rent? But anyway, it's only $1 a year. But it's because we're already into second quarter and it's gonna be time to renew it again. That's my only comment.
Okay, any more questions about the lease? I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to authorize the township clerk to execute the proposed 2022 rental agreement between Saugatuck Township and the state of Michigan.
Support?
Support.
Any more further discussion? And this is a voice vote, correct? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And we can move on to Vandis Monument in Riverside Cemetery.
So it might be the case that Gary Vandis is with us, but Township Cemetery Sexton Lori Babinski did receive a request from Gary Vandis to purchase 6 graves in Riverside Cemetery for the purpose of erecting a monument. The purchase of the graves is going to be contingent upon board approval of the monument. Just keep that in mind. The graves in question were part of a recapture of 435 unused burial spaces by the township in 2009. And given that they are in an older section of the cemetery, we don't really have fantastic documentation of what's there. We are unable to sell those burial sites for actual burials. So the only real use of them could be for erecting a monument. And that's exactly what Mr. Vandis is proposing, that he would not use those 6 graves for any burials, but just for the erecting of a monument. Just to give you an idea too, there are no restrictions on monuments in that area of the cemetery. And there's also a substantial monument located across the way. It's the Butler Obelisk. You've ever seen it? Attached, you'll find a proposal submitted by Mr. Vandis, including images, giving you a sense of the style and the scale of the monument. Given that the proposed monument is a little more substantial in size, Cemetery Sexton Babinski is requesting that the board weigh in on this issue and give approval.
Any questions?
I do. I looked over the images and they seem appealing enough and it seems like an appropriate use of the space.
particularly given that it can't be used for actual burials, would Ms. Babinski or you be involved with the monument company and placing it, seating? I mean, that's a large scale project, like.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm
No, I think
articulating my concern very well, but you know, that they're actually placing it, it's gonna be stable, it's on, you know, solid ground. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I've seen, Deputy Clerk Babinski is very involved in that. And so I think that, and actually she requested that we go walk the cemetery today. It rained, so we didn't do it. But I would think that she would be very hands-on in the choosing of the monument, the placement of the monument, all of that, yes.
Okay, great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd move to approve the proposed monument for Riverside Cemetery and add that it's in honor of legendary Jane Van Dis, which I think is a plus for the tri-community. You don't have to put that in the resolution. I wanted it. Gary's one of Jane's sons. Jane was quite a legend around here. So.
Well, I will support. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And we can move on to 8.5. Bridge to Beach Trail Resolution.
So we're calling, well, Treasurer Helmick has nicknamed the next event the Green Suite, all environmentally related. So the Tri-Community Master Plan Group is asked us to pass a resolution to support their beach to bridge trail vision. So Tri-Community Trail Master Plan Group is a community-based group, advisory committee composed of members of all 3 municipalities. We are very fortunate to have 3 of their members actively involved in the township on my rural character committee and 1 actually on our website design committee. So they've been very good to us. So the proposal is to create an interconnected system of trails that could conserve land, open up new space for public outdoor recreation, and establish permanent wildlife corridors. The resolution before the board would resolve the township's support of the Trail Master Plans Group Beach Division Trail, a plan to establish a non-motorized trail that would connect the Saugatuck Dunes State Park to the New Richmond Swing Bridge Park, and then open up access to the Allegan County State Game Area, which is actually in fact a goal in the master plan. So it's kind of a nice alignment there. Note that the resolution resolves the township support for the project, but it does not involve any financial commitment on behalf of the township.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. DeFranco? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to resolve the Saugatuck Township Board's support for the beach to bridge trail, I think we mean not tail, vision, sorry. Developed by the Tri-Community Trail Master Plan Group.
I'll support.
Okay, we have motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I forgot to ask this question, so I'll just ask this question now. Have either of our neighbors adopted such a resolution?
I don't think so.
Do you know if they're considering it, or?
I can reach out to them and
I'm
ask
just
them.
curious. 'Cause I know some of the trail goes through, certainly goes through the city.
Yes,
I think it goes through both cities, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Marcy?
Yes.
Bigford?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Osmond? Yes, motion carries. And we have another resolution.
It's a proclamation. So The International Dark Sky Association has proclaimed the week of April 22nd through the 30th as International Dark Sky Week to raise awareness of their mission to promote win-win solutions that allow people to appreciate dark, star-filled skies while enjoying the benefits of responsible outdoor lighting. So the township does have an outdoor lighting dark sky ordinance in the Rural Character Advisory Committee. They are doing work to improve that even more. Douglas does also have a outdoor lighting ordinance. It's not nearly as strong as the township's existing ordinance, but it's getting there. And I think that there's a little more attention that's being brought to it because of the work that the Rural Character Committee is doing. But the board should consider proclaiming April 22nd through the 30th International Dark Sky Week as a way both to raise awareness of the township's own dark sky lighting ordinance and to encourage our municipal neighbors to collaborate in the effort to reduce light pollution in our community.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to proclaim April 22nd through April 30th, 2022 as International Dark Sky Week in Saugatuck Township.
Support.
I'll support.
Any further discussion? Voice vote or roll call?
This is voice, it's proclamation.
Proclamation. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We have a dark sky week.
Fortunately.
Or shielded.
Right.
We have another proclamation designating April 22nd as Earth Day.
This is the last proclamation, I promise. So I don't know if the township has ever proclaimed or made a proclamation for Earth Day. It might, I'm not sure about the recent years, but Earth Day started in 1970 by a junior US Senator from Wisconsin. And now Earth Day is celebrated by more than 1 billion people in 190 countries. Township has not recognized Earth Day in recent years that I'm aware of. But I think that our efforts to improve recycling services, reduce waste, demonstrate an alignment between the township's strategic action plan and the mission of Earth Day, which is to support a clean environment through community collaboration and mobilization. This proclamation has been shared with the cities. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, but it has been shared with the city of Saugatuck and the city of the Village of Douglas. So the board should consider whether they would like to formally proclaim April 22nd, 2022 as Earth Day in Saugatuck Township.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to proclaim April 22nd, 2022 as Earth Day in Saugatuck Township.
Motion by Helmrich. Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, any further discussion?
I have a comment.
I have a comment too.
Go ahead.
In 1970, I was in junior high school when Earth Day started, and it was a big deal in my school.
Mine too.
Big deal.
And related to that, I had an Earth Day flag patch sewn into my winter coat. And I was going to ask, I know it might be a little soon, but
yeah,
we could fly the Earth Day flag next week.
I would love to.
And I think they're easily available.
Yeah, I would love
online,
to,
so
yeah.
Let's,
Yeah.
if we're going to proclaim it.
It's really a happy time.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Carries. Okay, we come to the consideration of the concerned residents' request for the township to submit an additional letter to the U.S. Army Corps.
So the board heard substantial public comment this evening. We heard a presentation by David Swan on behalf of a concerned citizen group. On Tuesday, April 5th, that group of concerned citizens did submit a request that the township considers submitting additional comments to the Army Corps of Engineers related to the Army Corps' public interest factors review of the proposed boat basin at the mouth of Kalamazoo. So that request was accompanied by a letter with 67 signers, a proposed letter for the township to submit to the Army Corps, and a frequently asked questions piece. And all those documents should be in your packet. And again, you heard that presentation this evening. At this time, professional staff have not had adequate time to review all of the information submitted. I did work today on putting together a kind of chronology of the history of the township submitting comments to the Army Corps. We have submitted 3. All of them have been in response to the Section 106 review, which concerns the effect of projects on historic properties. And all of them have been in response to being directly solicited by the Army Corps. In the first case, the Army Corps reached out and wanted to know if we wanted to comment, and we did. In the second case, after that initial review by the Army Corps, there were 2 significant developments. One of them being that the project area was expanded to include certain uplands in that area. So they actually expanded the project area. And the other one is the National Park Service reversed the Army Corps' prior determination that the Kalamazoo River did not qualify for inclusion in the National Register of Historic Places. They determined that it does qualify. So after that, Army Corps did reach out and say, do you want to submit more comments? The township did. That was in December 2020. And then in April 2021, the Army Corps reached out again and asked if the township wanted to remain involved in the Section 106 review, because at that time, we had a new township manager. And we did submit comments at that point, and those comments were related to the township board viewing the alternative design for the Saugatuck Marina favorably. So I'm kind of trying to work through the letter and kind of distill the impetus of it, or the impetus of this present request that's before the board. One of the impetus or the reasons for this request coming before us, I think, is the fact that the township never contributed to the Army Corps' public interest review. And that was because in 2017, the township declined to do so. So that gives you a sense of when that public interest review began, back in 2017, and we never submitted comments. However, I will point out that in every single letter that we did submit, we did specify that a goal of the township was to protect the public interest. So there was a kind of a mention of the public interest, even in that Section 106 review. The other kind of reason I think this might be coming before us, I don't know conclusively, but this is my kind of sense, is that in the past, the Army Corps kind of operates and assumes that whatever applicant is bringing their project forward, that applicant has done adequate research or analysis on the economic need of the project. And that kind of way of approaching the economic factor of the public interest review was recently kind of questioned by the US 6th District Court. They issued an opinion saying that the Army Corps can't just assume or can't hold that presumption that the applicant coming forward necessarily has done the appropriate or sufficient analysis related to the economic public interest, something like that. So I think that that's kind of why it's coming before you now. And so if you look at that letter itself, there is a request to speak to the economic factor of the public interest. There's also a lot more in there. And again, this is something that has not, we've really not had adequate time to digest. If you did want to move forward, I highly recommend that we reach out to the township attorney to review all of the materials submitted. I did present some ways in which the board might proceed. One of them is simply to accept the correspondence from concerned citizens as information. You could also postpone any kind of decision. Another is spelled out in the memo, and that is to request staff to review the information submitted by the concerned citizens and then consider sending the enclosed letter or having the attorney draft a new letter. Another thing that we can consider is the feasibility of submitting the concerned citizens proposal as information to the Army Corps. So we would submit it on behalf of the citizens. And in doing that, we would simply say, Army Corps of Engineer, we've received this information that we think is relevant for you to review. However, we do not necessarily endorse the content of that information. And that is something that we did in the February letter. We included a whole collection of letters from citizens and also a proclamation that was written by a group of citizens. And we enclosed that as information, but we explicitly said this is information that the township does not necessarily endorse, but we think that it is relevant to your review. So again, you don't have to make any kind of, specific decision on how you want to proceed, but that's just kind of some options in terms of considering how you want to approach this information.
Any questions?
Thank you for the chronology
You're very welcome.
and the options. And I also want to thank the concerned citizens for, because there was a letter submitted, I think, a month ago. This is quite a significantly different letter. The neutrality is key, really strong. And I think this focus on public interest, before it was the alternative marina plan, before that it was the ruling by the federal government on the traditional cultural place. So I think those are both strong things. I wanted to mention, you already summarized this, that the last 3 times we proceeded with communication to the Army Corps, which we are still one of the major consulting parties. The board passed that action unanimously to direct staff to review and prepare a submission. I also noted in the list of signatories that we were presented with today, 6 of the signers are either current or former township elected or appointed officials. They include members of the Library Board, Planning Commission, Parks Commission, and the board itself. I think that's worth noting. And yeah, I don't have a specific question. I wanted to make those comments before we proceed to.
Any questions or comments on the 3 options?
I do feel like this is a very lengthy and there was a lot of work put into this document. And I do echo DeFranco's sentiments that it's just not adequate time to digest all of it. However, just some thoughts, some preliminary thoughts from me would just be that our 3 previous letters definitely demonstrate that in no way are we minimizing, people are having a hard time with pronunciation today.
Everyone.
Or dismissing the importance of impressing, upon the Army Corps that we want them to do their job, and to fully investigate this, the appropriateness of this project. We engaged our legal counsel 3 times. And just kind of my preliminary thoughts would be to support that 3rd option. If we were to, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I suspect our legal counsel would take that very lengthy letter, that body of work, and condense it into something very small. And if we want it, I think there's just some benefits to saying, here, this is what our concerned citizens have compiled for your review. We don't necessarily endorse it, but here it is in its original form. I think there's some, some real benefits to doing it that way for us, for them, and we can remain neutral in some ways. There is that neutrality that you talked about. It's just the information that they've compiled. So that's what makes that attractive to me.
I would agree with that if we send it to our legal counsel, he's gonna want to write this letter himself. And
Yes.
we might not get all the details that the concerned citizens have put together in this. So if we just submit it, hey, we received this, check it out. We're not verifying its validity, but it's worth checking out.
A lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, of the options, I would just give them some recent history. Almost insist that we have to have a review by legal counsel. I really appreciate the chronology that you said. And was there anything that involved legal or anything like that before the chronology? Prior to, well, you started with 17.
That was the prior board.
Yes, I
imagine-
know, that's why I'm asking though, is because it's not in opposition to anything that's been approved before.
No.
And I'm
that's-
thinking
that's-
prior to our time,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but prior to
go
our
ahead.
time, because it's also prior to your time.
yeah,
Township never signed on as a consulting party. And
Oh, okay.
ignored solicitations from the Army Corps, which they always do with the municipality where land is or projects. They chose to ignore that. That changed with our first submission, the first of the three that we
Right.
did.
right. And community members, because they're not a party, they can't submit comments, correct? I'm just asking, these
No,
are
I don't
questions
know.
that pop.
I don't see why.
I mean,
they
could
can't.
these?
No, I think they could.
67 people actually submit
I think so.
individual,
Yeah, I did speak to the Army Corps and they said that whatever anyone sends them, they will accept and will review.
okay,
So there's nothing to say that if an individual submitted a letter related to the public interest factor review, that the Army Corps would not accept that. It's my understanding that they would.
okay,
So,
go ahead.
can you, what would be standing in your way, or what would your concern be that would prevent you from, if you don't have to answer, if you don't want to. Option 3, where we would say, here's a letter that the concerned citizens compiled, these 66 or 67, great deal of work went into it. We're giving it to you to consider. We're not,
No,
we're not, endorsing it or fact checking it or whatever. What are your concerns with that?
I don't have concerns with that option at all. I'm just trying to piece it all together in my mind.
Yeah, it's hard to remember.
And do we have, is there ever any kind of a timeline as to when they respond?
That's a great question. I think a lot of people want to know the answer to that
Yeah.
question.
They don't say. It's been 5 years, which well, I believe is an unusually long time,
Yeah.
but they don't say why it's taken that long. And I have not heard anyone suggest they've said anything about an end date on a decision.
Yeah, I'm sure there's good reason, or there might be a reason that the prior board didn't want to enter into anything, but I really think that's what we represent.
Right.
So I do like option 3, because I do think we should be involved. I'm also interested to hear the rest of Scott's comments in the, in, what's the word, the order of fairness, as well as if there's cited references and that kind of information in what he gave to us to share. But no, I'm not concerned about the third idea. I definitely think we have to talk to legal counsel.
Well, that's not in the third, is
I
it?
think that when
And
you're
that would be in
considering
the third.
considering the feasibility,
But only the feasibility of submitting it without comment.
right?
I would have the attorney review everything.
That's.
I would.
Well, that wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, it was kind of I was kind of working.
Because I was gonna agree with something I think that both of you said about, first of all, the time and the cost. But we're not saying rewrite or suggest different language. We're simply saying, are you okay with us submitting it as the consulting party for them to have? Is
So
that-
he would be reviewing the cover letter, mostly that went with it.
Yeah, the cover letter
Just to make
itself,
sure we're
not,
not contradicting.
right.
And I think at that point, we probably, if we're submitting other people's letters, we probably have to waive the right to edit them.
Yes.
No, that's a good point. No, I just wanted to clarify that. Work with you on a cover
Yes.
that should be succinct. And again, just say we're sharing this, these are concerned citizens from our community. But not rewrite that to come from us.
Sure,
I think that.
sure. And in that option 3, we would still have to take further action on that once that, if, you know, the attorney said, sure, you can pass that along and just say, this is, you know, hi, it's Saugatuck Township, these people, you know, put
Right.
this together, we're sharing it with you, we think that you might want to consider this. Would we still have to take action?
I don't think so.
To-
Well, in the past, as we did with the recent hiring process,
Right,
we designated 2 board members to
okay,
get the feedback from staff and council. It
To
did not-
authorize it.
It didn't have to come back to a full board vote,
okay,
which I think, considering the time issue, which we've also mentioned in terms of the time it would take to redraft something. I think that's what I'd suggest we do again.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't either. And would there be any problem if we do this, but couldn't they also individually?
Yes.
I mean, I would recommend that just
Yeah, I would
for
think
more
so.
impact, but
Yes, I think it would be a lot more impactful getting 67 individual letters than.
but that, I mean, I know that's not for us to decide, but that's why I asked. the
Right,
question.
that's a good question.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Excellent.
Okay. I move to have staff consider the feasibility of submitting the concerned citizens' proposals as information to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the public interest review. The township would not specifically endorse the citizens' proposals, but pass them along for consideration by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Support?
I'll support.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
To make a second motion to appoint 2 board members to kind of finalize, you know,
Get the
sign off
feedback
on,
from staff
right,
and
and just
council.
do that kind of final authorization on that letter.
I think so.
I nominate Stacy. I'm kidding.
Because she's not here.
I'm willing.
Maybe John and
Yeah, I've been working a lot with John lately and it's been going okay.
John, just.
If
for
he
the
makes a
proximity.
motion.
I'll move to appoint Abby and John to review. And
I'll
all to authorize setting out the back.
Okay, and I'll support that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, ARPA consideration. Take that one. Either Mr. Helmer or-
Which one is it? ARPA. Oh,
Oh,
ARPA
update and filing.
filing.
yeah. Well, I'll start if you want to join in. I just want to let people know because hearing and reading about all this. But since we last addressed potential ARPA funding spending at our last board workshop, Mr. DeFranco and I have spent a good deal of time with our auditor discussing proper accounting of ARPA funds. We've both been on some of the same webinars. I was on one just again this morning. April 30th is fastly approaching. That's the deadline for all municipalities, whether they spend any money or even decide how to spend it, have to file with the federal treasury. So I'm happy to say we are totally registered. All that has happened. And I think, knock wood, today I filed our report. It said successful. I had some advice from my trusted advisor in the city of Saugatuck, Mr. Stanislavski. they're in a different situation. They've spent some of their money. They got a lot less than us because it's population based, but they spent some. And he hasn't filed his report yet. So you saw me do mine. So like I said, I think we've met that deadline and we're properly registered. I made some changes with administrative contacts. Removed some people that were on there with me. And I think another key thing to say is I'm suggesting, and I think Mr. DeFranco agrees, that we have a quarterly board workshop already scheduled in May. I think it's the week after our regular board meeting. And I think that would be a good time to address more specifically. We kind of set some priorities. We've got some further feedback and suggestions on some things that we could spend on in this fiscal year before it ends, which is probably wise to do. And again, we've also run that by our auditor. So I just wanted to update everyone that we're moving forward.
Okay.
It's a good situation to be in.
John, for all that work.
Not, I'm trying to think. I am looking very closely at the priority areas in the strategic action plan. And kind of looking at it through the lens of what is the work that is already ongoing in the township that's directly related to the goals and how far we really progressed. And I think the board would be really impressed to find out that, you know, in some of those areas, we're kind of right there. We're about to take, we should be preparing to take that next step. And this is probably something that I'll talk more about at the May workshop. But especially in the area of growth and development, in that plan, it does specifically call out planning commission and the advisory committees as working towards achieving some of those goals. And I think they really have. And those advisory committees are really at the point where they're prepared to submit final recommendations. And I'll speak to this in my manager's report, but our zoning administrator is ready to give us a final recommendation. And I believe that you might have all seen that. So I feel very good when I look at that strategic action plan and how far we've really progressed in kind of connecting those dots. And that we're at the point perhaps where we will have substantial projects to fund. And not only will we have, you know, substantial projects that will really benefit the community, but there was a lot of work that went into developing those recommendations that I think we can really feel confident that this is money well spent, and this is something that the community wants. So that's all I would add about that right now.
Okay, it is with great pleasure that we move into the old business.
Old to be new.
With our township manager, we have an employment agreement. And we have everybody ready to take action on this. So if there was anybody that would like to make a motion, now's your chance.
It would be my honor to move to approve the employment agreement draft of April 7th for township manager. Is it really a draft? I guess it would be a draft unless we make changes here. So yes, okay, good question though.
No, that was council's suggestion.
Advice, okay, I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to formally accept Daniel DeFranco as our new township manager and sign the contract as submitted. Is there any further discussion?
No, but I would like to thank Abby and John for their work on this. Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was good.
It's a pleasure.
It was an honor and a pleasure, and I think we learned some things, and it was a good process to go through, and we are, I think, all very happy with the results and very pleased to bring Daniel on board. And he did say in the contract, as you can read yourselves, that he's going to stay with us for 3 years, so we're pretty happy about that. I mean, we can't like handcuff him to a desk or anything, but he's made that good faith. Yeah. And that we are very happy about. Yes.
And I'd just like to underscore for everyone, I think you all, no, I know you, everyone does know all this, but for the public too, because there was an inquiry from a member of the media today. And I felt very good about saying, this was a 4-week process. Last month, we were put on the hiring committee. We posted this with the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Townships Association for a period of time. We received 8 applicants from around the state, 1 from Illinois, 9 counting Mr. DeFranco, I should say. And I think we approached this in a mode of transparency and thoroughness, and then entered into about like a week-long negotiation period. And that's where we've come to. So again, it's a pleasure working with you. And we learned a lot this time, and we learned a lot from last time, and I think we're all stronger for it.
Yes. Okay, agree more.
I will do a roll call, even though we don't need to.
Just make it formal.
Make it formal and make it, everybody gets to say their thing. Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Osmond, yes, motion carries. Thank you very much, Daniel.
It is my
And
pleasure.
thank you, Abby and John. Okay, treasurer's report.
Oh, boy.
Just hit the highlights for us.
Huh? It's only highlights. You need to know this. It's my statutory duty. All right. As of April 1st, in our general fund bank, our balance was $2.7 million. It went up by $350,000 from March 1st. Again, general fund revenue is 44% ahead of budget. Permitting is 35,000 of that. That continues apace and ahead of what we budgeted for. And also very significantly, last week, we received our first of which will be annual state marijuana revenue sharing funds. We got $56,000. Everyone in the state that has a licensed retailer gets the same amount based on the number of licenses. It's not based on the local revenue. We had one in operation as of last September. Next year, this number could be 2 or even 3 times larger. We'll see. On the expense side, we remain extremely frugal. We're 4.6% below budget in the general fund expenditures. Across all funds, revenue is 19% ahead of budget and expenditures are 30% behind. That might shrink some, but that we've only got 2 more months to go in the fiscal year. ARPA update, I think I already gave that, and I'll move on. Marijuana and state revenue sharing. Again, I've explained the 58,000 that we got on our one operating retail outlet. And I think the rest of this is redundant too, except we have had to set up some general account numbers to follow state law on. So we delineate the revenue sharing in marijuana is different from our annual license fees. So that has to be tracked separately, and we're doing that. Tax year 2021 is mercifully over, and we settled with the county on March 18th. Anyone that didn't pay by March 1st now has to deal with the county treasury. Disbursements in the consent agreement tonight, because you need to approve these. The 6th winter tax payout, $645,000 was in the consent, and number 7, which was strictly almost $9,000 owed to the county after we went through settlement together. So that has gone out. I do still owe us, the township, about $41,000. That's going to go out this week, and investments we'll do in a second. So I'm sorry I ran to 2 pages this month. But the planning fiscal year 2023 budget, Daniel and I have been working diligently. I think we've spent 9.5 hours or so with each other and with Lori, deputy clerk. We've examined every single budget line in the budget to see where things have been coded to and charged this year. We've made some changes. We had some questions about direction previously. And again, nothing untoward, but just should a new computer, should the logo design be charged to a computer. So we continue our diligence on making things more accurate and transparent. We've talked again, as I said, a lot with the auditor to discuss the fund balance equations and how that works. And every community in the state's going through a massive reorganization of the chart of accounts that the state tells us to follow, but we're on top of that and working through that. And let's see, I already mentioned we have a board workshop in May where we're hoping to address not only ARPA, but do some preliminary thoughts on spending and revenue for the next fiscal year. And just a reminder, the week after next, I will be in lovely Mount Pleasant all week. It's my third year
I saw
of
that.
the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association Institute. And if I make it to the Friday, I will graduate and be certified. Okay, so thank you for your support. And then now, last month, I did not share the financial investments because I said I was reworking how I presented. I'm only required to do this quarterly. I like to do it every month. So there's a slide version, and then there's one in the packet with our new logo on it. I wanted, because I wasn't happy the way it was being presented. So I talked to both of our municipal advisors on what numbers they thought were most pertinent to share with the board. And also with the one in the packet, I'm happy to have added our new logo. So we don't need to go through this line by line, but the bottom line is we have CDs, municipal bonds, and local bonds. We're working with 2 municipal advisors and 1 bank on all of the above, as well as our Michigan class. That's the pool account that most municipalities participate in. So we are at $2.4 million total investments. Now, that does include $176,000 of ARPA funds, which are housed in the pool. But we're at 2.4 million. We've also collected almost $3,000 total interest across all accounts. So that's where we're at. As you know, it's a big increase from where we were even a year ago, let alone 2 years ago. And I'm just going to throw this out, as I mentioned, the bank account for general fund has, like, I made some notes, but I think I know it all in my head. We're at 2,700,000. We have about 2 years of our expected monthly expenses in the bank. And MTA recommend like 3 to 6. Again, we're sitting on a lot of cash that I think could be better used. So I think in May, Abby and I are the investment committee. I think we'll be suggesting some new purchases. Bond rates are creeping up some, interest rates. That's a good result of increased interest rates. So we'll be looking at that and setting up meetings, phone meetings with our 2 advisors. And I think that's what I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, I didn't know that this is important. This is part of messaging. So back to the closing of the tax season, we collected $13 million in property tax revenue through the tax year that ended March 1st. And we dispersed most of it because that's how it works. Just so you know, the township kept $340,000 for operating funds, and we collected another $130,000 for admin fees. So of the $13 million that we collect, that people sometimes gripe at us for collecting, we kept a whopping 4%. And that's important for messaging. So
Yeah.
there you go. Thank you.
I have just a quick comment. Yes. John, thank you particularly for putting together the financial investment summary. I recognize it's complicated to compile, and I know you've been working on it for a long time. I think it's good the purchase dates are all in 21. So even though the interest is, I mean, $3,000 is $3,000, but it seems low considering it's only been a year or quite a bit less for some of these investments. Right. I think that's encouraging, particularly that the yields, the bonds and the CDs just are not performing well now, but they they will turn, the tides will turn. So thank you for doing that. And
Oh,
it's
you're
nice
welcome.
to see that work is paying off.
And also the total market value, because sometimes it's lower than the purchase, but that's the market value as of April 1st if we were to sell it. And the maturity date, as you can see, we've got a pretty stepped approach to short-term, mid-term, long-term, that, until that maturity date hits, the total market value number
Okay,
can be misleading.
okay.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So we all received your planning commission report, and had a chance to read it, so hit the highlights.
Okay, let me turn the page. The planning commission met on March 28th. We welcomed a new planning commissioner, Ken Butler, who many of you know, who's been on our Parks Commission. Ken is replacing Mr. DeFranco, who could no longer serve on the planning commission. So the main gist of the evening was the proposed Dollar General down at the intersection of Blue Star Highway and M89. And we also appointed Denise Webster as secretary to replace you. So we had the site plan review of Dollar General. We did hear several public commenters on this, both in person and on Zoom. Lene Wells, our zoning administrator, suggested many helpful conditions concerning parking spaces. The site plan had 80 of them, and it's probably down to 30 now. We discussed water supply for firefighting, lighting, exterior colors, tree buffers. It was very, very specific. And I did mention that the applicants were very amenable and open to suggestions and being cooperative with us. We postponed the item. We did not take a vote because we requested more detailed submission from the applicants behind the proposed Dollar General to come back in the future. Mr. Boscraft, who's in the audience tonight, well done. He had a masterful performance that night. No, we had asked him to come back with more detail on the extension of the warehouse area right down 135th Avenue, west of Blue Star. The new plan he presented incorporated the elements that the Planning Commission had requested. The conditions were tighter, definitions are clearer, and he did mention they're requesting a property line adjustment and some splits to deal with the fact that they're so close to critical dune area. But the new plan was approved with 15 conditions, and those are the two items. Well, when I wrote this, we were meeting at the end of April. That's been canceled. There are no items. There will not be a planning commission meeting now till May.
Great.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
And Mr. DeFranco, you're up.
I will try to keep it short. I'm just gonna hop around a little. So the previous board meeting, you authorized me contracting a web design firm for an amount not to exceed 20,000. I did that. I was able to negotiate a little bit down to 19,500 with Insight Design and Marketing out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They are very excited to be working with us. I'm very excited to be working with them. Not only are they professionals at web design, but they're also have expertise in marketing and brand identity development, which I think will be very helpful in the development of the website itself. I have assembled a working committee for the website redesign composed of myself, Jennifer Drew, and Chris Clark, who also sits on my Rural Character and Conservation Committee. He's been excellent. He was an instructor of educational technology at Notre Dame for over 20 years. So he's been a great resource for that. So we had our first discovery meeting on March 30th, and we are having our second meeting with Insight on April 14th. So tomorrow. Broadband, some great developments with broadband. The county has established a new broadband action committee led by Jill Dunham,
Right.
and she's just done a fabulous job. I'm so impressed. At this time, the county is not requesting that we commit any funds to them, but they're kind of taking the lead. So what they're trying to do is establish more accurate maps of where there's internet access throughout the state. And they're hoping to establish an address-based map through a countywide survey. So the real big ask of us is going to be the promotion of this survey. And it really does benefit us to have some sort of strategy in rolling out. The more people in the township that take or fill out the survey, the better or the more accurate the map will be in highlighting who is underserved and who doesn't have service at all. And what we're going to do with that map, what we're going to do with that map once it's produced is the county is going to put out an RFP to every internet provider in the county, asking them or asking each company to put a proposal together for any area they would like. They're hoping to get every single area covered. So that's how it's operating right now. And again, that's not going to cost anything to the township. And what the county is hoping is that infrastructure money from the federal government will begin to roll in at that point, and those internet providers will be able to fund about 80% of the cost of expanding broadband. And Jill has had conversations with them already, and the broadband companies seem perfectly content with actually matching or providing that other 20%. So we might see, other than the cost of putting together the survey and putting together the RFP and paying for some staff relative to the action committee, we don't really see any kind of costs associated with the municipalities or with the county, and all that's going to be funded by ARPA. So that's kind of a big development. So we're just staying involved, but they're not asking for any money. They're just asking for our continued involvement and support. Logo, we are beginning to implement the logo, so you're going to start to see it some places. Jennifer Drew is very kind in printing the logo on a cup for you all, which is in those boxes. So you can take that home.
Awesome.
I have one correction to my River Bluff shoreline grant blurb. So this does not have to do with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. I borrowed that from some earlier memos, but that was actually incorrect. It's the Kalamazoo River trustees, and they're composed of multiple state and federal agencies, including Eagle, NOAA, and NIFWIF. And our grant has already been awarded. And right now we are in the process of submitting all the necessary information we need to proceed with the administration or the administering of the funds. So I submitted everything that NIFWIF, who is administering our specific grant, everything that they need to get it going. And I really have to give probably all the credit to Dana Bird in putting this together. He's just amazing. And I just kind of facilitated behind the scenes, but that is in place. And we should start to see a plan for NIFWIF administering those funds so we can initiate this shoreline restoration project for River Bluff Park. There's that. We can continue to get engaged in the sewer agreement. We kind of had a nothing meeting. Nothing really came of it the other week. But all the managers are going to be meeting on tomorrow, Thursday. All of us are going to meet tomorrow, Thursday, to kind of review our comments. And then we will be meeting with Cow Lake and their attorney on Friday to actually start moving. And I think that meeting will be productive because at this point in time, the city of Saugatuck, the city of Douglas, and the township have all submitted comments to be reviewed. So that should be a productive meeting. Water main at 66th Street, that SAD, the bond sale went through. Our financial advisor was very happy with the result. And we're actually, and so the bond was awarded, the bond project was awarded to Horizon Bank. And we will actually be receiving those funds of $478,000 on the 21st. And so we can set up our construction fund. I did hear that, the clerk and the deputy clerk did express to me an interest in having 2 new laptops for elections so they could have dual electronic polling books just to increase or decrease waiting time. And that kind of relieves the need to have a second polling station, which is very expensive. The cost of those 2 laptops was a little over $1,600. But with a 2022 election security grant, $1,500 of that purchase is going to be reimbursed. So it's going to cost the township just over a little $100 to have 2 new laptops for elections, decrease wait times for residents who are voting, and to avoid having the need to open up a second polling precinct. And then finance, kind of following along with John, we've been really working on the budget. One of the things we've been focusing on is going line by line, so we know or making sure that expenses are being charged to the correct lines. I did note that our engineer wasn't necessarily breaking down expenses relative to roads, water utility and sewer utility. And that's important because all those funds are restricted funds. So we want to make sure that we can charge all of the relevant expenditures to those restricted funds, so we don't eat away at the general fund. So I've talked to him and he has no problem correcting that. So in the future, all of that will be divided on our billing so we can accurately bill against those restricted funds. And then we're going to work through some other bills to make sure that we're able to break them down and bill them in this fiscal year towards the appropriate trust restricted funds.
You might have just answered this question.
Yeah.
Is he able to go back earlier in this fiscal year?
We're gonna go through everything.
Great.
Yeah, and Gloria
That's how we
and I,
discovered it. It was like, wait, there's something. Okay, great.
yeah, Deputy Clerk Babinski and I went through every engineer charge, and I was able to break it down by invoice number. So Dana has all that information, and we will be going through it in the next week or so.
That's fabulous.
And then the last thing is something that you all received. So zoning administrator Wells canceled the April meeting because there's something on the agenda. It's nothing crazy, but she also has reached a kind of recommendation to the board. And that recommendation is to update the entire zoning ordinance. And that recommendation is really stemming from 2 factors. One of the factors is the fact that we have these 3 advisory committees that are part of planning, rural character, economic development, and attainable housing. And all of them have pretty much reached the point of final recommendations. And there are just so many great recommendations that it is overwhelming and really not possible for the zoning administrator to hit on all of those. And then a kind of related problem is that the zoning administrator is recognizing that there are just fundamental deficiencies in our present zoning ordinance. In dealing with the Dollar General, we have uses with no definitions, which cause a lot of problems. And it's causing so much more work for a zoning administrator and taking her away from things that we really would like to see. So she's recommending that our zoning ordinance, we could Band-Aid it up, but we're really not fixing anything. And so we just need a complete overhaul of the entire zoning ordinance. And that would kind of fix all those fundamental deficiencies, but allow us to also bring in those recommendations that were devised or put together by all the advisory committees. So kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It is going to have a price associated with it, but the best part is that we have money in multiple areas that we could fund it by. We have permit fees coming in from marijuana licensing totaling $45,000 this year. We'll probably get another $45,000 next year. We talked with the attorney, and those funds could absolutely be used for zoning related activities, such as updating the zoning ordinance. We have ARPA funds. So it's just kind of a question of which pot do we pull the money from, but we have kind of money dedicated to zoning that we really could use for this, or we could go the ARPA route. So it's looking really positive in terms of, being able to fund that project. But I am bringing it forth as a recommendation from the zoning administrator, and the zoning administrator is prepared to put together a proposal for an RFQ that you could vote on in the May meeting if you so choose to.
Excellent.
It's just to add to that, we're really hoping that some of that expenditure can happen this fiscal year. Also to keep it on track, because originally Lene thought we could have some first public hearings by June. That's not going to happen, but we don't want to wait 6 more months. So we don't want to slow that process down and frustrate the 3 advisory committees. So
yes.
Okay. Open board report. Brenda,
Nada?
Abby,
I just wanted to comment on the household hazardous waste day ask, and just offer my support that I do believe that it was very well received. I think it will continue to be well received until potentially, like John was stating, it may slow down at some point, and hopefully we can have a different option of how to run that by that time. So I just want to vocalize my support that I think that we should chip in the $5,000 that they're asking. And also I do support zoning administrator Wells's recommendation to just totally,
At least get that ball rolling up to revise our entire ordinance.
Will the hazardous waste be on next month's agenda?
It will be.
Okay.
It will be,
John,
I have just one item.
okay,
This Friday, we are having a site visit meeting with representatives from MDOT, the State Department of Transportation. This is the next step from the sound mitigation issues on I-96. So we requested that they come down with their tree expert and look at least 2 of the sites that were mapped out by Mr. Vanderbeek when we first met with the representatives from MDOT that was orchestrated by State Rep Mary Whiteford's office. So we hope to get their feedback on reactions to the potential sites, and more importantly, then get back to us with what it might cost. Because again, that could end up being something to consider with ARPA or next year's budget. Or even, that was one of the projects that our friends from New Standard expressed interest in. So it's the next step, because we need to get some hard numbers on that.
is Parks involved in this?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they've been involved with all of them. This would not be a parks project,
Right.
but they've seen it's on the list of potential.
I just want to express my pleasant surprise about the broadband, that's going to be moving along. That's really all I have. I can now open it up to public comments. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? Please keep it to 3 minutes. Brenda will be the timer.
I'm not going to take 3 minutes,
John,
but thank you for taking this job. For 3 years, we're promised that, and you guys, thanks for making it happen and realizing that was an awesome choice. I'm stoked about that. Like I was saying earlier in the public comment, like, I feel like we have great synergy now for a lot of the stuff that I'm pushing for. There's 15,488 acres in Saugatuck Township. That's it. They're not making any more of it. Only 4,000 of it is wooded. Only 70 acres is our parks. My group is adding at least 10. We're going to be adding 15% to the conservation this year. We need you guys to start looking at that ARPA money in the next couple of years. We're using private funds right now, but we're working on this list of properties that we can end up with, and I'm working on first right of refusals. So that's all I want to leave with you guys, just thinking about those numbers. Only 70 acres of 15,488 acres. Let's just sleep over that and see what we can do over the next couple of years. And this is great. I love it.
thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott,
I was gonna use your trick and just say I wanted to go last, but
I just did. Well, me.
I waited behind you. Before I start my 3 minutes, I gotta say congratulations. I think you guys did a great job and got a great hire. And you're here for 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow. I was gonna say you better hide them, but that is awesome.
We will then.
Yes. All right, so timer lady.
Yes, go ahead.
I would rather just pick up a couple things. If you want to circulate that would probably be best. I think I have to commend you. I think that was actually a great decision today. You did receive a lot of information from the public. It has a lot of signatures. But I'm always concerned when you guys take things and go, I'm going to assign it to a couple people and then it doesn't come back to the board to get reviewed again. And I almost wish that
somehow that would happen. I think there's a couple things that we should probably, or at least this board should remember, and there's talk about the tri-community master plan. And in 2016, on page 10.7, it was updated. And it reads, literally, most of the non-wetland shoreline in Saugatuck in the city of the village of Douglas has been developed. And the balance is in private ownership. And that would be a lot of the property that we control. The waterfront should be continued to be maintained and where necessary, redeveloped with a mix of single and multifamily residential uses, along with waterfront related commercial developments such as marinas and ship to shore activities. And then I would point out to the board that the property that we have starts at C1, goes to R1, goes to R2, and goes to R3B. Under your ordinance and your existing requirements, it aligns perfectly with what I just read out of your tri-community master plan. When it comes to these other things, and when there's comments about what your previous board has done, I would recommend that if you haven't done it, read the resolution from 2017 on the PUD, and read it in its entirety. Read the attachments, read the report that came from the planner that was hired by the township. And also read that 326, March 26, 2017 special use approval in its entirety. I think the approvals that are in there and the documents in there contradict a significant amount of the information that you received tonight. And I think it's important that you know that. And then I guess I would end with the fact that also I would remind this township that you currently are a defendant in an action that actually is brought by the group that is in front of you today, asking you to submit a letter. And then lastly, when I saw the letter this week, I went back and looked at that consent judgment from 2012. And there was a paragraph that headed that said payments by the Saugatuck Dunes Coastal Alliance number 22. And it said, following the adoption of the R4 amendment, various persons and entities sought to persuade the township to use its permitting and zoning authority to effectively bar or at least restrict regulated roads, other infrastructure, and homes on the Dunstan property. I would always just encourage this board to be independently minded. We would ask as property owners that you protect our rights also and guide yourself accordingly. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thanks, Scott.
Anyone else would like to make a public comment?
Thank you all very much for your patience and thank you all very much for what you're doing. Congratulations. You had a question regarding why the Army Corps had not yet made a decision. Usually it's a 3-month process.
Wow.
We are now in year number 5. If you look at the frequently asked questions, which is in your packet on page 3, question 7, it lays out one of the reasons why it's so complicated. So I'll leave you all with that. I just wanted to point that out. And I'll send you all a note regarding just, I don't want to stand up here and argue tit for tat with what the developer has just said, but I will say regarding the SAU special approval use, there was no findings of fact. And if you look at a map of the river mouth, it is primarily a designated natural area. Patty Burkholz natural area, the $20 million Saugatuck Harbor natural area, Talmadge Woods, which was put into protection in 1928 by Thomas Talmadge to protect Oxbow. It's primarily designated natural area. So thank you all very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment? Anybody on the Zoom call? Okay. Public comment of the meeting and entertain a motion to adjourn.
You can just adjourn in
Oh, I
person,
think-
right?
Yeah,
You can do that.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned at 8:28.
This is a thing that you hammer onto. You know one of those
Yeah.
things?
The round wood
Little
there.
cork. Yeah, I think it's cork.
Cork? Oh, so it's not as loud?
Oh, you could actually kind of make it a little louder than that.
Yeah.
About the summer, I have, it's on my list. I think you'll have it, yeah, I'll ask